countries should follow suit. Hang on, why do I feel like we are hurtling towards conscription in this country? And if we did, would you support that? And get this, first-generation migrants to make up 25% of Britain's population by 2035. The Shadow Home Secretary says that that is a threat to social cohesion. Do you agree? Goodness me, we have so much to discuss tonight, and I've got a fabulous panel lined up for you. I've got Charlie Downs and alongside him, James Schneider. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening. The main headlines from the GB News Centre. The Reform MP Rupert Lowe is tonight at the centre of bullying allegations. Reform UK Chairman Zia Yusuf has released a statement confirming that the party had received complaints from 2 female employees about serious bullying in Mr Lowe's parliamentary office and his constituency office. The complaints relate to allegations of workplace bullying and the targeting of female staff who raised concerns. Reforms say that the police have also been made aware of 2 other allegations that the chairman of the party was threatened by the MP on 2 separate occasions. In a statement this evening, Mr Lowe said he was disappointed but not surprised to learn of what he said were untrue and false allegations. In more breaking news, Donald Trump says he's working hard to get a Ukraine peace deal as soon as possible. The president was speaking in the White House after another major wave of Russian attacks on its neighbour overnight. Mr Trump said that Ukraine was taking tremendous punishment and a peace deal was urgently needed.
I want to settle the war, get it finished, because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it. And President Macron has said that, and everybody said that. The prime ministers and presidents. We're pushing very hard. That's all I'm thinking about now. As far as the question about security later, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting it settled. We got to get them.
Members of a Russian-run spy ring are facing lengthy jail terms for one of the largest and most complex enemy operations to be uncovered on UK soil. Bulgarians Katrin Ivanova, Vanya Gabarova and Tomir Ivanchev were found guilty at the Old Bailey of spying on an industrial scale, putting lives and national security at risk. Well, Commander Dominic Murphy, the head of the Metropolitan Police Counter-Terrorism Command, details the threat they posed.
From everything we've discovered, the threat was quite broad, in fact. So, yes, they were gathering information. It's what you might call lifestyle surveillance against individuals here in the UK. My concern has always been, though, what was that lifestyle surveillance going to lead to? And we have seen a long history of the Russian state conducting operations here in the United Kingdom, including lethal threat operations like the investigation in Salisbury. So deeply worrying about the physical and information challenges created.
And finally, the act representing the UK at this year's Eurovision has been chosen.
What the hell just happened? No clue, but I liked it.
Country trio Remember Monday will be hoping to follow in the footsteps of Sandy Shaw, Lulu, Brotherhood of Man, Bucks Fizz and Katrina and the Waves. They'll be taking on the rest of Europe in Switzerland this May. The very best of luck to them. I want to start a petition for a Bucks Fizz revival with Michelle Dewberry.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. There's a vision, isn't it? That's something to plant into your minds, ladies and gents. Me and Mark White doing Bucks Fizz. I don't think you'd get away with that in this day and age, him ripping my skirt off. He'd be at a workplace tribunal, wouldn't he, within about 2 seconds? Life has certainly changed, hasn't it? Anyway, look, I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. We're with you till 7 o'clock tonight. We have a lot to discuss, and look who's keeping me company to do just that. The broadcaster and writer, Charlie Downs, and alongside him, the former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, James Schneider. Good evening, gents, to both of you. You're very welcome on this Friday night, as are each and every single one of you. What a day it's been, ladies and gents, and I want you to join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. I want your opinions tonight. We have a lot to discuss. Get yourself comfortable, ladies and gents, because first up, it's all been kicking off over at Reform UK HQ. Let me cross live now to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, what on earth is going on?
Yes, it is kicking off big time here for Reform UK tonight. Civil war has broken out. The chairman of the party has reported that Zia Youssef has reported one of its leading MPs called Rupert Lowe to police over threats. Zia Youssef has Rupert Lowe is one of 5 MPs for Reform UK. The party's also revealed that Mr Lowe has been accused of bullying 2 female members of staff, and the complaint has been made to parliamentary authorities. Now, Mr Youssef and the Chief Whip, Lee Anderson, the MP for Ashfield, say they have evidence of workplace bullying, the targeting of female staff who raised concerns, and evidence of derogatory and discriminatory remarks made about women, including reference to a perceived disability. Now, this statement comes a day after Mr Lowe questioned Nigel Farage's approach to the party, saying he would need the right people, in quotes, around him to deliver the goods. These claims have been completely denied by Rupert Lowe. He issued a statement, a 570-word statement, moments ago to GB News. He said he's disappointed to read these untrue and false allegations. Let me be clear, he says. He said an investigation is based on 0 credible evidence against me and has been repeatedly stated by the neutral investigator. He says he's spoken at length to a KC, a King's Council they've instructed. Rupert Lowe says that she is dismayed that the party has issued a statement about him, and she says, according to Mr Lowe, that no evidence against him has been sent to her, and she is shocked at the process. The first he heard about this was on Friday last week, before the interview which appeared in the Daily Mail, which drew question marks about Nigel Farage's leadership. He goes on to say he's been pushing behind the scenes for many months for structure to improve, for delegation to improve, and for communication to improve in this party. He's been frozen out, he claims, of meetings, policy discussions, press conferences and more. He's known to your viewers on your show, Michelle, a regular person on the panel. He's well known. He says he's tried and tried to help and will keep trying. He didn't speak out publicly, he said, before exhausting all other options. He's done all in his power to resolve this behind a closed door. Sadly, he failed. He wants to do better than this. He says, stay with the party. He says to Reform supporters of his, not of the party, but his, stay with the party, he says. We must win the next election. There's no other choice. Infighting serves nobody. Again, he goes on to dismiss his claims as saying they're false. He says that this is our party as much as Nigel's. Now, that comes after this party, with now as many as 200,000 members, has reformed its structure so those members have a say over how it's run. It was run as a company owned by Nigel Farage. No longer. It's now a party owned by members, at least according to the structure, agree with the Electoral Commission. I'm seeking a confirmation right now on air that the whip has been withdrawn. We know that Rupert Lowe is meeting with Lee Anderson, the party's chief whip, tonight. Reports are saying that he has lost the whip, so he's been suspended. That means that Reform is down from 5 to 4 MPs. Other parties, of course, are delighted, Michelle, about this. The Tory party, which is feeling the most heat from Reform UK on the right of politics, they say if the allegations are true and as serious as they claim, Reform must remove the whip from Rupert Lowe. Again, reportedly that's happened, but we haven't got confirmation yet. But if they're not removing the whip, they say that it can be only seen as a stitch-up to ruin Lowe's reputation and punish him for criticising their Messiah. Their Messiah, of course, is Nigel Farage.
Goodness gracious me. Christopher, thank you very much for that. What a mess, ladies and gents. What an absolute mess. So many interesting things going on, sir. As you've just been hearing there, Rupert Lowe, it's been reported that he has now lost that whip. We'll clarify that as soon as we can. I mean, you're a Reform UK member and supporter.
Indeed, yeah.
What do you make to all of this?
Well, I think I'm starting to understand how it felt for James and his friends when they were out in the political wilderness all those years ago. And it's just so demoralising to see this infighting in what should be the only viable vehicle for a truly radical change in British politics on the landscape. The fact that we are seeing this infighting between Rupert Lowe, who is, in my, for my money, the finest MP in Parliament, and the leader of the party, Nigel Farage, two men who I respect immensely and who I do believe between them have the goods to truly, transform British politics. To see them falling out like this is just so depressing and so demoralising. And you would think we'd be beyond this kind of thing. You'd think that we would be above this kind of thing, given the dire state of the country and the way that it's being run into the ground by Starmer and the idiots that he's surrounded by in the Labour Party, and yet here we are. We are reading stories now of Rupert Lowe having lost the whip in the party, conversations happening behind closed doors, but also dirty laundry being aired in public. These allegations that have been made against Rupert Lowe in this letter that's been published by Reform UK. As far as I'm aware, no evidence has actually been brought against him. So this really is just dirty laundry, basically. And so, I'm sort of sitting here struggling really what to make of it, because I am a supporter of the party. I am a member of the party. I want to see the party succeed. I want to see them take government at the next election. But it's difficult to be excited in this moment when there is, when there is this infighting between some of the finest members of the party.
I mean, I've got so much I want to say on this, but James, your thoughts?
Yeah, it looks terrible because it simultaneously looks like they're a normal Westminster party. This is the kind of pointless, it seems, to most people in the public. Of course, there could be serious allegations, there could be real stuff to it, but this looks to most people like this is just politicians playing politicians with themselves. But it's also a dysfunctional version of that. And obviously, we've seen this before with different Nigel Farage vehicles. Famously, he left UKIP because there were so many different leaderships and challenges and all sorts of strength and punch-ups going on. And I think this probably shows part of the challenge that end of politics is going to have when lots of people are attracted through their ego to the possible idea that this is the growing thing, this bit of the radical right of politics looks to be advancing. And you've seen it for months and months now with the attempts to flirt with Elon Musk on his platform from a number of figures in and around Reform. So I think it does look very, 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 very bad for them, whatever the actual facts are, if they're ever established, about the different allegations that have been made by the party against Lowe, and I'm sure Lowe will have his own counterclaims.
So, I mean, the inbox, you guys are getting in touch absolutely in your droves. If you've not been following this story, I would suggest it all kind of began, or it's all kind of kicked off, escalated a couple of days ago. There was this double-page spread, actually, as it happens, in the Daily Mail newspaper. Rupert Lowe had given an interview to Andrew Pearce. There it is. If you're watching on the radio, I mean, it's a huge double-page spread. You've got a small picture of Nigel and Rupert. The primary picture is Rupert Lowe, kind of waving the Union flag proudly. And it's all about whether or not he thinks that whether or not Nigel is the man to lead that party to success. Now, I speak to you at home every day of my life. I see what you say and I see how you feel. And I've got to say, I've really felt a sense of optimism from so many of you at home. You have felt that for many of you, Reform UK provides the solution to political change that you felt has been very much needed in this country. a lot of you really quite devastated tonight, dismayed, disappointed. George says, I am so disappointed in Reform. I expected better from them. Adele says, I am a Reform member. I'm absolutely gutted to see this nonsense within the party. The infighting of all of this is totally out of line. That sentiment that essentially it's people airing their dirty laundry is really coming through thick and fast. Mel says, please, 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 Reform UK, on behalf of the British public, please can you stop the infighting? I've got to say there's a division in terms of whose side of this whole sorry mess you are all on. But whatever you actually think, unless, of course, you're one of the opposition parties absolutely rubbing their hands with glee. This is a gift, isn't it? It will feel like a gift essentially from God for the Tories, for Labour and for the Lib Dems. I'll be bringing you into this conversation more after the break. If you have just tuned in, it's all kicked off on Reform UK's watch. You've got allegations, counter-allegations, you've got the police now getting involved, lawyers, you name it. We'll discuss it more in 2.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Why do you want to do this, my friend?
I want to raise awareness about what disabled people can do and try and change some perceptions on what is possible.
So, Craig, what happened to you when you were 18 years old? Because your life changed forever, didn't it, in Afghanistan?
It did, yeah. I was on routine foot patrol and several feet in front of me was a Commando IED. They triggered it and, yeah, triple amputee. Both legs and only the one hand.
And how did those injuries change your life, Craig?
Oh, yeah, in the worst way possible, you know. Everything I loved was taken away from me. Windsurfing taken away, guitar taken away. Couldn't even hug my parents or speak in the first initial few weeks. So it was a complete flip upside down.
I'm wheelchair bound and I have been for 2 years. And I only concentrate on what I can't do. And you're actually coming at this from the opposite way, and you're saying, if you're disabled, these are the things you can do.
I'd say to you, focus on how you can't do those things. So how to actually achieve the things that you're not saying you can do. And if you give it a bit of time and thought, I'm pretty sure you'd achieve it.
Wow. And then what's led you to this challenge now? I mean, travelling 6,000 nautical miles from Mexico to Japan by yourself.
My dad taught me how to sail when I was very young, and that lasted up until I joined the army. When I was injured, the doctors saying, you know, look, sports are pretty much a no-go. My dad refused to take that as a thing. He gave me the details to the Paralympic sailing coach, and then I was in the Paralympic team for a little while. I didn't go to any games, but that reintroduced me to sailing and what was possible in the sailing world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, Michelle Dewberry, Dewbs & Co. with you until 7 o'clock. Charlie Downs, James Schneider remain alongside me. I'm telling you now, ladies and gents, you guys are furious, devastated, confused, depressed, anxious, you name it, is how you represent one train of thought tonight. The other train of thought is absolutely delighted, salivating, rubbing their hands with glee. What are we talking about if you have only just tuned in? It all started, it felt like days ago. It was only, I've just been reminded myself yesterday. I speak, of course, about Reform UK, which, like them or love them, they are one of the dominating forces in political landscape in this country right now. Well, of course, yesterday Rupert Lowe did a double-page spread. It ended up being in the Daily Mail, which was all about him, essentially. I can't lie. It was all about him. It was less than complimentary, some would say, about Nigel Farage. Much of it, some others would say, was accurate. He was basically saying that reform is led to victory by the Messiah, which is Nigel, and that he feels, you know, things need to get straightened out when it comes to policy decisions and positions and so on. I've got to say, when I saw that double-page spread, I did think to myself, what a strange thing to do. What drove that was what I was pondering. Anyway, fast forward 24 hours, because it's all now kicked off. And in case you're just joining us, you've now got Rupert Lowe has been referred to the police. You've got allegations of, quote, serious workplace bullying, and also allegations of threats of physical violence against Zia Youssef, the chairman. Rupert Lowe denies all of this. So many of you that do support reform, you're devastated. There's people getting in touch saying, gents, all you had to do was hold it together for a couple of years. That's all you had to do, and you could have changed the landscape of British politics. Now, let me ask you this. In my water, I have a feeling, Charlie Downs, and my feeling is the word ego. And I want politics to be disrupted in this country. I was rooting, and I am rooting in lots of ways, for reform to change things, because I really do feel like the landscape is broken. But I worry that when you get a handful of men, and I will just be honest and say that, when you get a handful of men, egos do come into play. When you're all successful, you've all got your own thoughts, ideas, principles and ways forward. And I'm worried about something like this happening because of egos. Do you think I'm oversimplifying things or what?
Well, there can be no denying that there is a certain type of radical politics that attracts big personalities, right? And I think that part of that is because there is there's an intrigue and excitement to radical politics. I think radical right-wing politics as well is particularly individualistic. You know, it attracts what Carlyle would call great men of history. I think if you look at Trump, he's almost the prime principal example of this in our own time. But I think that, you know, actually using the example of Trump, you don't see people going after him and going for the top spot against him. Because Trump, everybody agrees in the American right-wing scene that Trump is the king, right? Trump is the rightful leader, and nobody has any sort of, you know, any other ideas about that. In fact, when Ron DeSantis went for the leadership, or I think it was the presidential nomination, he was immediately shut down because he was essentially trying to be Trump without being Trump. And so I wonder whether there is the same question needs to be answered in the British context about a kind of rightful king figure emerging. Now, that may well be Farage. I mean, he certainly has the common touch and is very, very popular among ordinary people. And I wonder whether it was foolish of Lowe to try and, you know, even insinuate that Farage might not be up to the job. That being said, when I read that article yesterday, because I read it before the papers all picked it up, I actually thought it was fairly innocuous. I mean, sure, he does sort of challenge the party and challenge Farage in certain ways, but I didn't think it was, you know, to the extent that it has been, you know, made out to be in the media. I think this has actually been blown all out of proportion, and it's actually more so a function of kind of media sensationalism that this has happened than anything. Because I think that if they just spoke to each other, I feel like this probably all could have been avoided, but perhaps not. I don't know. It's just very, very frustrating that this is happening. And as you say, on the question of egos, there just needs to be an understanding that, look, you know, I was quoted in a Telegraph article today about young Reform UK supporters, and what I said in that article is a lot of young people are looking at Reform UK and thinking, finally, something different, something that actually offers us something a little bit more exciting and with a little bit more promise, and that's actually going to change our lives for the better. It's going to put more money in our pockets, make housing more affordable, lower the immigration that is completely wrecking the public services in this country, and now we're looking at this situation. and thinking, really, is this what is causing what would otherwise be a truly exciting and promising force in British politics? Is it really egos that's going to break that up? It's just really disappointing and frustrating. And it makes me think, well, are we in for another 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of not just Labour, but uni-party rule? Because that's the other part of this, if I can just go for 30 more seconds, is the Tories are laughing right now.
Of course, this is a great day for the Tories.
Under the flatlining non-leadership of Kemi Badenoch, they are looking at this situation and thinking, we haven't even had to do anything, and reform is imploding. And this, it's just laughable, because I imagine a situation where, for example, Robert Jenrick had won the leadership of the Conservative Party, and actually maybe then there was a greater degree of unity in Reform UK, because they might actually have viewed the Conservative Party as a threat. But because they haven't viewed the Conservative Party as a threat, rightly, because they haven't been a threat, I think that this is what's fomented this situation where this infighting has been allowed to happen. Very frustrating.
James?
I mean, I think the authority is a key point that Charlie rightly makes. If there feels like there's a gap in authority, then that allows for the princes to start fighting. And this really, Michelle, your point about ego is absolutely correct. But I also think a big part of it is not having a shared project, as in agreeing on a basic set of principles. Like, politics is full of egos, but I can speak to when Corbyn ran the Labour Party and how our main team operated. And, of course, there were fractious things and there were egos there. But generally speaking, because everybody had a shared idea of what we wanted to do, or enough of a shared idea of what we wanted to do, at the end of the day, no one 6 months into being in Parliament or whatever, went to the Daily Mail to do an interview slagging off the leader.
Well, you raise an interesting point there, and I think it's one perhaps I'm going to explore more with you after the break, because there has been a sense, hasn't there, recently, that Nigel Farage has almost become like a Jeremy Corbyn-type figure, the attacks that many people are pushing onto him about Putin and the like. And there's been some interesting things going on there when it comes to the perception of Nigel Farage. We'll explore that after the break. Ross says, Michelle, what a mess. What a mess. Indeed. We'll continue to explore said mess in 2.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. As we've been hearing throughout the course of the day, Eurostar trains remain suspended to and from London and Paris. Now, it's all down to this unexploded wartime bomb that was discovered near to Paris, Gare du Nord, also affecting Le Shuttle Eurotunnel services as well. And Northern trains can't run Carlisle to Workington. A lorry has hit a bridge near to Aspatria. On to the Underground in London. Severe delays on the Central Line on the eastern stretch between Leytonstone and Epping and Hainault. On the road to the M1 in South Yorkshire, down to one lane northbound near Rotherham, near to junction 35 for emergency repairs. M6 is down to a single lane southbound in Lancashire, 33 to 32 south of the M55 following an accident. Long queues back to the M6. And in East Sussex, near the Kent border, south of Tunbridge Wells at Frant, the A267 is blocked by a collision. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, everybody, and happy Friday to each and every one of you. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. We are with you until 7 o'clock tonight. And if you are just tuning in alongside me, I've got my panel, Charlie Downs and James Schneider. Lots of you. I mean, I had such a packed programme to discuss with you all tonight. You all get in touch with me, it seems to be at the moment, about the one single topic, which is the absolute monumental, and time will tell whether or not it's going to be catastrophic, fallout within the ranks of Reform UK. If you're just tuning in, you don't know what I'm talking about, well, cast your mind back a mere 24 hours ago. A day is a long time in politics, isn't it? Rupert Lowe, he did a double-page spread in the Daily Mail. He was interviewed by Andrew Pearce, of course, of Britain's newsroom fame here at GB News. It was, as I said, a double-page spread. If you've not seen it, it features a huge central image of Rupert holding the Union flag and a much smaller image of Rupert and Nigel. It's Rupert giving his take on Reform UK. He essentially calls Nigel essentially like the Messiah, saying that the party was essentially in some ways a protest party and it needs to professionalise, it needs to get policies and so on and so forth. It raised eyebrows, I can tell you that, obviously within the Reform UK headquarters as well, because fast forward 24 hours, it's all kicked off, ladies and gents. You need your popcorn to try and even follow it. You've had allegations and a statement issued from Reform UK. They've alleged all kinds of different things against Rupert Lowe. Serious workplace bullying towards females. Also alleging threats of physical violence from Rupert towards the chairman, Zia Youssef. The police are now apparently involved. Yep, you heard that right. Rupert has had the whip suspended and he has issued quite a scathing denial. Ben Habib, you'll remember there was a prior fallout there. He's got involved on this as well on Twitter. He's basically saying that Zia Youssef, the party chairman, should be fired. Lots of you getting in touch tonight that support Reform UK, and you were pinning your hopes on them. You want the change. You want the change in the form of Reform UK, and a lot of you are absolutely devastated. You don't want these kind of fallouts. You don't want this kind of dirty laundry going on. Let's just explore that point, because you're a Reform UK member. Mm-hmm. The point that Rupert Lowe was making in this article yesterday about Reform being a protest party, is there any truth in that, do you think?
Well, I think by definition, Reform is they're an insurgent, dissident, radical party. And there is, I mean, one could frame that as them being a protest party, perhaps. But I don't think that necessarily carries with it any kind of illegitimacy or any suggestions of amateurism or anything like that, which I think is how this has been read by certain people. I don't think there's any shame in being a party that is attacking the system from the outside. In fact, that's why Reform is so popular. That's why I support Reform, because I think that the system we have in this country is rotten and needs to go and needs to be shaken up by an insurgent force like Reform. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it was the way that it was framed by Lowe in the article. Maybe there was a suggestion that that was in some way a problem or in some way amateurish. I don't know. And then for Nigel Farage to then come back and say that they're not a protest party, once again, I sort of think, well, I don't know whether that's quite the right response to that, because there's nothing wrong with being a protest party. I think it was the way that it was perceived as being a negative thing. You know, they're a party that's purely trading off of negative energy, and I think that that's how Farage interpreted it. And I don't think that's true at all. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily.
That is how
what
Lowe meant it, though.
Do you think it is?
Yes, because he said we need to professionalise, we need to have a front bench. We need to become a more normal parliamentary party, and I think that's not what you would want, and I don't think, I mean, as a kind of external observer, I don't think that would make Reform do better in the polls, say, or more likely to win the election. I mean, let's be clear, this was a broadside attack on Farage's leadership of the party, whether deserved or not. I mean, it just was, and now there's been this counterattack. We've been down this road before with Farage's previous vehicles. I mean, I'm going to forget the exact facts, but UKIP have twice won seats in the London Assembly. I think both times those London Assembly members ended their terms not as UKIP but setting up their own parties. Similar thing happened, I think, in Wales.
Hold that thought, because I do need to bring to you, we've had a statement now from the Metropolitan Police. I mean, I can barely even believe that these words are exiting my mouth, ladies and gents, but there you go. The Metropolitan Police have said the following. On Thursday, the 6th of March, we received an allegation of verbal threats made by a 67-year-old man. On Friday, the 13th of December, officers are carrying out an assessment of the allegations to determine what further action may be required. Goodness gracious me. Burr, one of my viewers, has been in touch and says, RIP Reform. Mark, another viewer, has got in touch and said, Michelle, this is exactly how the Tories were played by the Labour Party when they got rid of Boris Johnson. Everyone, just back Rupert, he says, do not fall into this trap. The sentiment that a lot of you are getting in touch and saying is that this is just manna from heaven for the opposition parties, whether it's the Lib Dems, whether it's Labour, whether it's the Tories. So many people absolutely rubbing their hands with glee. Bryman says, Michelle, I have so much admiration for Farage and his politics, but you're suggesting that he feels insecure around intellectual peers or superiors. First Ben Habib, now Rupert Lowe. That one will absolutely divide it, I can tell you now. Jessie is agreeing with you, James. She says Nigel Farage has form when it comes to destroying political parties. Goodness me. I mean, such a big sense of feeling coming through, but I interrupted you. What was your point you were making before that statement?
I think I was talking about how in the past in UKIP and other parties we've seen these fallings out beforehand. Because what holds a political party together is either a shared proximity to power, and that gives you a reason to stay together, or a shared set of politics. You all agree enough that you're part of a shared project. And it seems like this isn't enough to hold together the current crop of Reform UK people. I mean, sending one of your MPs, I mean, calling the police on one of your MPs for, I mean, again, we don't know the details of what happened on the Friday, the 13th of December, but for verbal threats, which of course could be serious, but also could not be serious and could be something that maybe could be resolved behind closed doors in a reasonable manner. I mean, it's a big escalation. It's a really, really big escalation.
It's a really big escalation. Gord, one of the viewers on Twitter, he's just got in touch and said, look, whatever way anyone looks at this is a huge problem for Reform UK. There's all kinds of speculation which will now be flying around. And ultimately, he says, the main losers in all of this are UK voters. One of my other viewers says, Michelle, you are demented. I get called lots of worse things, I can assure that viewer. He says, I'm demented for suggesting that this perhaps is a male ego thing. I don't think I'm demented, dear viewer. I think I've got my finger on the pulse. I can't help it. I do what I feel, and I worry and I fret that here what we're seeing is egos playing out. If I could get these men involved in a line in front of me, do you know what I would do, ladies and gents? I would firstly shake them, and I would secondly bang their heads together, because there are millions upon millions of people counting on the Reform Party to really get into power, to be a productive, positive force for change, a positive force for good in this country. People despair, and they've been absolutely desperate for change. And what we're seeing now, whatever way you cut it and look at it, is dirty laundry being aired in public. And that viewer, Gord, you've just summed it up properly for me. The losers in all of this will be the great British public that are desperate for change. Luckily, they're not in front of me, so their heads won't be banged together. But get in touch and tell me what you think of it all. How do you feel tonight about this? Do you care or not? I'll see you in 2.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, we can expect lots of spring sunshine, feeling warm for many too, but across Scotland a slightly different story, wetter here, and that's all thanks to this frontal system slowly moving its way northwards as we head through this evening and overnight. So a thicker area of cloud moving through, also some outbreaks of rain for a time across Northern Ireland, though this eventually easing, but outbreaks of rain moving their way across Scotland. This could be a little bit heavy at times, but for many it's going to be a largely dry night, a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, and remaining fairly mild too as we find ourselves in between two frontal systems, so a largely frost-free start to the weekend. Across Scotland, though, some quite thick areas of cloud. This cloud could be fairly low at times. That might just lead to a bit of a murky start. Any rain largely confined to the north, but it should shift its way northwards through the course of the day, so brightening up quite a lot across a large portion of Scotland. A murky start still too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and pretty much everywhere across England and Wales could see some patchy mist or fog to start, but this clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. But some further cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, a risk of showers through the morning, but any showers largely petering out. Some rain perhaps lingering across the far north of Scotland through much of the day, but for many it's actually going to be a dry start to the weekend. Plenty of blue skies, and it's going to feel particularly warm for the time of year as well. Temperatures possibly reaching 18, maybe 19, 20 degrees Celsius, where we see that sunshine stick around, particularly across northern parts of England. So a nice start to the weekend. And similar on Sunday, we'll see quite a mild start, perhaps some patchy frost under the clearer skies, but for many it's going to be a dry day. Once again, plenty of blue skies and still feeling very warm for the time of year. Just some higher cloud perhaps across the far southwest, making any sunshine turn a little bit hazy, and more dry weather to come next week, but temperatures are soon going to dip away, so likely to see some overnight frost and some chilly days.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, happy Friday to you, Michelle Dewberry, Dewbs and Co with you for the next 15 minutes till 7 o'clock. Charlie Downs, James Schneider alongside me, as is the tradition. It's only right on Dewbs and Co. On a Friday night, Dewberry Tavern does indeed open. I like this moment. It's where I share a drink with my panel and to any of you at home that do join the occasion. So cheers to my panel, cheers to each of you.
Oh, no.
What are we cheering? Life? Being here?
Simple
being
times.
in this, yeah, just
how about that?
Health,
yeah.
happiness, life.
Yep.
Cheers, everybody. you never know what's around the corner, do you? So we've only really got this moment in life, haven't we? Everything absolutely changes in a heartbeat. If you just joined us, the big news that's affecting many of you tonight, and that I think and imagine that lots of you will be talking about in the pub tonight and this weekend and beyond, is the monumental fallout within Reform UK. So many of you getting in touch, and if you're a supporter of Reform UK, you're absolutely devastated. So many of you have been in touch, sharing your thoughts. One of my viewers gives an interesting point. He suggests that the line, this was all going to happen, the writing was on the wall because of the subject of Tommy Robinson and a divide within the party when it came to Nigel Farage, Richard Tice and Rupert Lowe had a slightly different view. Do you think that view is onto something there or not?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I don't know Rupert Lowe well, but I've met him a number of times, and whenever the subject of Robinson has come up, he has basically taken a similar line to the rest of the party, which is, look, Tommy Robinson is the manifestation of a far more fundamental problem, which is essentially the anguish of the dispossessed white working class in Britain, and that he, as a man, is far from perfect, and he has done a great many things that are worthy of condemnation, and he is not going to be Prime Minister or occupying any kind of government departments. But with that being said, he's not going anywhere, and the phenomenon that he represents is not going anywhere, all the while the conditions that created him remain, unaddressed. So I don't think that Tommy Robinson and any sort of, disputes within the party about him have anything to do with this. I think that this is purely politics.
Interesting when you say purely politics, you mean personal rivalry rather than...
Interpersonal politics, as opposed to philosophy.
Yeah, but when Elon Musk said that Nigel Farage wasn't up to it, it seemed to be in part because Farage was maintaining the firm line that UKIP have always had against the further right, the more street further right or far right that Tommy Robinson seemed to represent. Rupert Lowe did put out a statement or a tweet which was like more emollient or more open towards Tommy Robinson. So it may not be actually their particular views towards him, but how Elon Musk views Tommy Robinson. Well, clearly Elon Musk thinks that Tommy Robinson should be a key part of reform, and he wants reform to be like AfD in Germany, and wants to break down that barrier which Farage has always had up, basically, from before between UKIP and the BNP, and this is read into it in the same way.
Yeah, for Musk, Robinson is a fundamental part of this entire equation. But again, I think that that Lowe's line on, at that time was essentially what I've just laid out, which is he's not going to endorse Robinson, but he understands what it is that Robinson represents.
Sure. And as a standalone line, you can say that makes sense, but it is noticeably different from the Farage position. Yeah,
but I think that's maybe fair enough. But once again, I would bring it back to actually this bust-up that's happened over the last 48 or so hours. I don't think it has anything to do with Tommy Robinson. I think that this is purely, essentially, it's what Michelle has said already. It's egos, it's big personalities that you always find in this area of politics bashing up against each other. But to be honest, I'm quite interested to sort of ponder what happens next now, because Rupert Lowe has lost the whip in Reform UK. So now what happens?
Well, he's had it suspended, hasn't he? And I'm guessing that he'll have it, he'll have this investigation and all the rest of it, and then will he get it back? Won't he get it back?
It's going to be very, very awkward on Monday in the corridor that they have in Parliament. All five of them are in little offices next to each other, on one little corridor. And can you really see? OK, stranger things have happened, but a way back for an MP who has been reported to the police by the party chair, who is very close to, it seems, the party leader, and was put there by the party leader. If that happened in another political party, you would say they are permanently parting company.
Yeah, lots of you are getting in touch as well, saying, Michelle, this is all very strange timing. You've had the Daily Mail article, two-page article yesterday, Now, excuse me, now you've got the police referral now about an event that apparently, allegedly happened back in December. I've got to repeat again that Rupert Lowe massively, passionately denies the allegations that have been made against him. Jill, GB News member, thank you, Jill. She's got in touch and said, I cannot even tell you how deflated and shocked I feel today. Talk about political suicide. Lots of you are also getting in touch and saying Rupert was wrong to go public and actually do the article in the way that he did. Reform are being attacked by all different sides, essentially. So the last thing they suggest that people need to be doing within that party is essentially tearing themselves apart as well. Everyone else does a good enough job of doing that. June said lots of this smells of Labour Party interference. They are desperate to bring the Reform Party down. Why did you tut at that, James?
Oh, because they're doing it to themselves. I mean, it's not like Labour reported them to the police. I mean, this is internally auto-generated thing. I mean, Labour are the beneficiaries, obviously, and will be very happy that this has happened.
As are the Conservatives as well.
The Conservatives, I mean, I think you were being polite when you described them as flatlining. I mean, you know, they are... Before this event, they were on a kind of terminal, I think decline, terminal trajectory. Maybe this will save them, maybe this won't. But, I mean, Andrew Pearce does not take his orders from the government. The Daily Mail doesn't take their orders from the government. The Zia Yusuf reporting him to the police, that doesn't come from the government. So I don't think Labour really have anything to do with it other than they've been given a Christmas present early.
Richard says, Michelle, at the end of the day, we've seen that everyone has gone after Trump and all have failed. He now feels that Nigel is in a similar position, everyone attacking Nigel, and he feels that they all will fail on that quest. One of my members, Ice Cold Truth, says most politicians have an ego that's more overinflated than the British economy, as it seems. Alison says Nigel's had years of fighting the establishment. Rupert has only been in the job for 6 months and seems to be getting a massive head. I will still be staying with Nigel. I will still be voting Reform, but I am very, very disappointed, she says. Martin's got in touch and said absolutely gutted. You were gutted when they lost Ben Habib, gutted when and if they do seem to lose Rupert Lowe as well. Matthew says, why would you go to a newspaper to essentially complain about your boss? If you've got an issue, wouldn't you take that up with your boss? This is Susie says, what are you all getting so excited about? This is absolutely nothing compared to punching a constituent's lights out. Everybody, she says, needs to absolutely calm down until we all know the facts. Lots of you. Richard says, everyone needs to calm down. What do you lot think you're in? A pantomime, says Richard. They should
give Susie a job in the Reform press office. That was a very good calm down, everyone.
Well, there's lots of calm down. Teresa, she's saying calm down. I will not take sides in all of this because I've got huge respect for all of them. She says she doesn't believe the bullying claims. I'll be really interested, you know, about what these bullying claims are actually supposed to be, because I always find it quite fascinating what constitutes workplace bullying in this day and age, because we do have a new generation, don't we? It'll get me in trouble saying this, but we do have a bit of a new generation of workers who they can't handle banter anymore, can they? I don't know what's gone on, so I'm not talking about the specifics in this case, but I'm just making a more generalised point that what some people regard as bullying, other people would perhaps regard as banter, and don't really see what all of the upset is. But look, we've almost ran out of time, so I shall end the programme by reiterating my thoughts from the middle of the programme, which is, gents, I want to line you all up, I want to shake you all, and I want to bang your heads together, because whatever you think about politics in this country, we need functioning opposition parties, and many, many millions of people would say and argue that what we need is complete and utter change, and certainly some kind of reform. And Mike has been in touch with me. and said, Michelle, I don't agree with pretty much anything that you say. In fact, I disagree with almost absolutely everything. But that's free speech, he says. Yes, it is. But he shares that sentiment about egos as well. Boy, oh boy, what will next week bring? Everything changes so very fast. I'll tell you what's not changing, though, me. I'll be with you for the next hour as well.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, we can expect lots of spring sunshine, feeling warm for many too, but across Scotland a slightly different story, wetter here, and that's all thanks to this frontal system slowly moving its way northwards as we head through this evening and overnight. So a thicker area of cloud moving through, also some outbreaks of rain for a time across Northern Ireland, though this eventually easing, but outbreaks of rain moving their way across Scotland. This could be a little bit heavy at times, but for many it's going to be a largely dry night, a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, and remaining fairly mild too as we find ourselves in between two frontal systems, so a largely frost-free start to the weekend. Across Scotland, though, some quite thick areas of cloud. This cloud could be fairly low at times. That might just lead to a bit of a murky start. Any rain largely confined to the north, but it should shift its way northwards through the course of the day, so brightening up quite a lot across a large portion of Scotland. A murky start still too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and pretty much everywhere across England and Wales could see some patchy mist or fog to start, but this clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. But some further cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, a risk of showers through the morning, but any showers largely petering out. Some rain perhaps lingering across the far north of Scotland through much of the day, but for many it's actually going to be a dry start to the weekend. Plenty of blue skies, and it's going to feel particularly warm for the time of year as well. Temperatures possibly reaching 18, maybe 19, 20 degrees Celsius, where we see that sunshine stick around, particularly across northern parts of England. So a nice start to the weekend. And similar on Sunday, we'll see quite a mild start, perhaps some patchy frost under the clearer skies, but for many it's going to be a dry day. Once again, plenty of blue skies and still feeling very warm for the time of year. Just some higher cloud perhaps across the far southwest, making any sunshine turn a little bit hazy, and more dry weather to come next week, but temperatures are soon going to dip away, so likely to see some overnight frost and some chilly days.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. As we continue to hear throughout the course of today, and due to the discovery of an unexploded wartime bomb near to Paris, Gare du Nord, it means that Eurostar trains are suspended out of London to Paris. I imagine this is also affecting the Eurotunnel, the shuttle service as well. And northern trains are suspended between Carlisle and Workington up in Cumbria after a lorry hit a bridge near to Aspatria. Onto the roads, the M6 is down to a single lane southbound in Lancashire, 33 to 32 towards the M55 following an accident causing long delays this evening. And in the West Midlands on the M42, two lanes are closed northbound 4 to 5 to south of the Solihull bypass. A lorry has broken down. And finally, in East Sussex at Frant, near the Kentish border south of Tunbridge Wells, the A267 blocked by collision. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Hello there, happy Friday to you. No, I am not Lee Anderson in a wig. I am indeed Michelle Dewberry, and I am with you for a bonus hour. For the next hour, there's one story in town. It is all kicking off, ladies and gents, in the Reform UK camp. An internal row has escalated monumentally. We've got complaints, we've got counter complaints, we've got police involvement, and we've got Rupert Lowe with his whip suspended. I've got a packed programme for you. I've got a panel and I've got guests. Do not go anywhere. We have a lot to discuss, but before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you the latest news headlines.
Hello there, the latest headlines from the GB News Centre. The Reform MP Rupert Lowe has tonight been suspended from the party amid a number of bullying allegations. Reform UK Chairman Zia Youssef confirmed the party had received complaints from 2 female employees about serious bullying. The complaints relate to allegations of workplace bullying and the targeting of female staff who raised concerns. Reform say that the police have also been made aware of 2 other allegations that the chairman of the party was threatened by the MP on 2 separate occasions. In a statement this evening, Mr Lowe said he was disappointed but not surprised to learn of what he said were false allegations. The Metropolitan Police has confirmed tonight that it received complaints of verbal threats made by a 67-year-old man, and officers are carrying out an assessment to determine what further action may be required. We'll have lots more on this story, of course, throughout the evening on GB News. Now, Donald Trump says he's working hard to get a Ukraine peace deal as soon as possible. The president was speaking in the White House after another major wave of Russian attacks on its neighbour overnight. Mr Trump said that the Ukraine was taking tremendous punishment and a peace deal was urgently needed.
I want to settle the war, get it finished, because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it. And President Macron has said that, and everybody said that. The prime ministers and presidents. We're pushing very hard. That's all I'm thinking about now. As far as the question about security later, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting it settled. We got to get them.
Members of a Russian-run spy ring are facing lengthy jail terms for one of the largest and most complex enemy operations to be uncovered on UK soil. The 3 Bulgarian nationals were found guilty at the Old Bailey of spying on an industrial scale and putting lives and national security at risk. Well, Commander Dominic Murphy, the head of the Metropolitan Police Counter-Terror Command, details the threat they posed.
From everything we've discovered, the threat was quite broad, in fact. So, yes, they were gathering information. It's what you might call lifestyle surveillance against individuals here in the UK. My concern has always been, though, what was that lifestyle surveillance going to lead to? And we have seen a long history of the Russian state conducting operations here in the United Kingdom, including lethal threat operations like the investigation in Salisbury. So deeply worrying about the physical and information challenges created.
The Independent Office for Police Conduct has reopened its investigation into previous assaults by Nottingham killer Valdo Calacane, following representations from the victims' families. The alleged assaults took place just a month before Calacane killed Ian Coates, Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Coomer. OK, you're right up to date with the latest GB News headlines. Now, a GB News special with Michelle Dewberry, looking at all of the fallout from the allegations against Reform MP Rupert Lowe.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. And yes, indeed, a Dewberry bonus hour. What a Friday treat. They don't make them like this very irregularly, do they? I am Michelle Dewberry and I am keeping you company for the next hour as we look at the whole fallout, the goings-on of the situation within Reform UK. I've got the panel alongside me, the broadcaster and writer Charlie Downs and the former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, James Schneider, alongside me. Good evening, gents. And each and every single one of you are very welcome indeed to join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Settle down and get comfortable while we try and make sense, if we can, of what on earth is going on. To help us along the way, our political editor, Christopher Hope, joins me now. Good evening, Christopher. Where do we even begin? Bring the viewers up to speed, if you will.
Well, where we are right now is that the Reform UK party, which is ahead in the polls, has lost a fifth of its MPs in the House of Commons. They had 5 MPs, now they're down to 4. That's because Rupert Lowe, one of their senior, one of the 4 MPs, has had the whip suspended. He's lost the right to be a Reform UK MP. He's the same as Jeremy Corbyn, if you like, in the House of Commons. I'm sure James will like that reference. He's an independent MP in the House of Commons, and that's because a massive civil war has broken out in this challenger party tonight. Very briefly, he's been accused of serious bullying. There's a picture of him now on the screen, and making 2 threats of physical violence against the chairman, Zia Youssef. That is now a police matter. The Met Police have issued a statement saying that on the 6th of March, that was yesterday, it received an allegation of verbal threats made by a 67-year-old man back on Friday the 13th of December. Officers are now carrying out an assessment of the allegations to determine what further action may be required. Lowe has been at loggerheads with his leader, Nigel Farage, over the party's leadership. According to the party, he's been accused by 2 female employees of serious bullying in both his parliamentary and his constituency office out in Great Yarmouth. The complaints, which apparently include derogatory remarks about women and making reference to a perceived disability, they've been taken to the parliamentary authorities. Lee Anderson, who's the chief whip, and Zia Youssef, they've appointed an independent King's Council to review this, and they say that Lowe has not helped to work with the police. They say in a statement tonight they stand for the highest standards of conduct in public office, and they will apply these standards without fear or favour, including within their own party. Now, Rupert Lowe, for his part, is a very rich businessman. He says he's disappointed, but not surprised, to read these false and untrue allegations. He wants to be abundantly clear. This investigation is based on 0 credible evidence against him, and has been repeatedly stated, he says, by the neutral investigator. The allegations of physical threats are outrageous and entirely untrue. He says he's never made derogatory comments about women or those with disabilities. That's a lie, he says. These allegations are not even referring to him, he says. He's seeking legal advice. It's no surprise, he says, that this vexation statement has been released after his reasonable and constructive questions about Nigel Farage and his reform structure. We covered those at length on GB News yesterday. He had no warning of the release of these statements on Twitter tonight. All he wants, he says, is for communication in the party to improve, delegation to improve, structure to improve. He says these are reasonable requests, he says, for a party that purports to form the next government. He stands by every word he says. He's been looking for reform within reform with zero success for many months. He says he's been cut out of meetings, policy discussions, press conferences and many, many more. He repeats he wants better communication within the party. Honestly, he's tried. He says members, voters deserve so much more from this challenger party. He says to reform supporters of his personally, he says stay within the party. They want to win the next election. There's no choice. Infighting only serves their enemies. If they want to kick me out over false claims, he says, they'll have to find some credible evidence against him. A complete inability to accept even the most mild constructive criticism with such a malicious reaction is not effective leadership. This is our party, says Rupert Lowe, as much as is Nigel Farage's. And just finally, the people who are delighted by this chaotic ending to a working week in Westminster are this party's rivals, notably the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. There's a statement from the Conservative Party tonight, and they've been made very, very clear they think that Rupert Lowe has been hung out to dry. They're saying if these allegations are true and serious as they claim, reform would remove the whip. Well, they have done now, and they add, if they weren't removing the whip, well, they have done. They would say it was a stitch-up to ruin Lowe's reputation and punish him for criticising their Messiah. I should say, since that was released by the Tory party, he has had the whip removed. So Rupert Lowe, as things stand, is no longer a Reform UK party. And this challenger party, ahead in the polls, is in an utter mess.
And just help viewers understand then the suspension of the whip. Is this permanent? Is it temporary? Is it something Rupert can appeal? Explain to people how that works.
So what that means, the whip means that you have a right to stand as an MP representing a party. If you lose the whip, it means you act independently in Parliament, like, for example, Jeremy Corbyn, who's a former Labour MP. He is now free to do what he wants because he and others voted against a policy on the issue of benefits, a two-child cap on benefits within Labour. And that's why you'll see Rupert Lowe on screen there. He'll now be an independent, can act as he sees fit. He can't be told how to vote by Lee Anderson. How he gets it back, I mean, there should be now an internal investigation. There are complaints in with parliamentary authorities. That may resolve it. It's a very new party, Michelle. There's no actual, as I know, a formal way of resolving this. I think he's got to, frankly, make friends again with the party's hierarchy and find his way back in then, if he wants to. But right now he's fallen. I mean, the party's chairman, it seems, has reported him to the police for verbal threats. It looks to me like a relationship which right now it can't be mended.
Yeah, I mean, I might be looking ahead and stretching things a little bit. Do you imagine a scenario where people in Reform could perhaps be pushing for a by-election, trying to trigger a recall there? Do you think, or not?
Well, nowhere near that. I mean, the recall by-election would be triggered by if there's a police investigation and a custodial sentence, and we are absolutely nowhere near that in this situation. This is a verbal complaint, verbal threats the police are looking at, made on December 13th, reported to the police yesterday. Apparently, the threats are made against the party's chairman, and we are nowhere near a trial, any kind of criminal allegation. That is, and of course, we've heard in vivid terms there from Rupert Lowe. He denies all of it, says it's false claims. They're not credible evidence, he claims, both on the bullying claims against two individuals and the threats. He's denying everything. So we're nowhere near that. I think we're nowhere near by-election in Great Yarmouth. And according to friends of Rupert Lowe, he's a huge popular MP in Great Yarmouth. He doesn't take a salary to be an MP. He's independently wealthy. He stands on his own 2 feet. He gives his salary to charity. He's someone who's doing it because he wants to give back. I mean, I know a lot of other senior business people who support or are adjacent to Reform UK. They are very impressed by Rupert Lowe. It's very hard to make that change from being a business leader to being in Parliament. A lot of people have failed to do that correctly, and people are admiring Rupert Lowe for the way he taken the fight over the issues of benefit claimants, the issues of unemployment, immigration, telling it like it is. He's hard to control for the party. He's not reliant on the salary of an MP. He does it because he believes in it, and that appears, well, by his own account, he says these claims about him aren't the case, and there's an attempt here. It seems it's a malicious way to deal with him. He's very unhappy about it, and I'm hoping we'll be hearing from him at some point shortly or over the weekend on GB News.
Well, fascinating, and for any Reform members, disappointing twists and turns today. But for now, Christopher, thank you for that update. Now, lots of you are getting in touch saying it's very suspicious timing of all of this because, of course, Rupert Lowe's article went out yesterday. I mean, I can't believe this is only all 24 hours old, but that was yesterday, that article. What's now happening is that the police have confirmed that yesterday they got an allegation of threats that had apparently been made on Friday, the 13th of December. Some people questioning why the delay. Rupert Lowe himself has tweeted and said this complaint, obviously, he's basically saying that the police received the complaint yesterday relating to an event in December. This complaint obviously went in just after, he says, I asked reasonable questions of Reform's leadership. He says it's a malicious attempt to drag my name through the mud. He also, in a separate tweet, goes on to say there is zero evidence of me making derogatory or discriminatory remarks about women or disabled people. He says anyone who repeats that shall be hearing from my libel lawyer, and I include Reform UK in that too. He ends by saying the truth will out. Charlie Downs, we're going to explore this across the course of the hour. I've got various guests joining me as we do, but for now, just a quick top-line reaction from you.
Well, to young people like me who actually place their faith in Reform as being the vehicle necessary to bring a new conception of politics to Britain that actually puts the interests of ordinary people first, this is all very disappointing and demoralising. And it's just the last thing we need at this moment when our country is being driven into the ground by Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. And Reform UK really represent the only alternative, the only meaningful opposition to that style of politics, because it's certainly not the Conservative Party. I mean, Kemi Badenoch has been supremely ineffective in her time as leader of the opposition, and so Reform have become the de facto opposition. And so to see this infighting at this acute moment of crisis is just incredibly disappointing.
Gilly has been in touch saying, Michelle, I am a member of Reform UK, but at the moment she says, I am ashamed of them. I thought they were the only adults in the room. I am gutted. I feel let down. And she says, I feel politically homeless. James Schneider, a top reaction from you.
Well, it looks bad for both of these fragile egos. I mean, it's bad leadership from Nigel Farage to let something come to this level. And Rupert Lowe, I mean, if he's got problems with how the party is run, generally speaking, you don't do it in a double-page spread in a newspaper that's read by the members and that people are going to notice. So from both of them, very clearly, it seems you, last hour, Michelle, you were talking about the egos of the men involved. I think it's fragile egos. You know, if Nigel Farage were there feeling confident in what's going on, he reads an article criticising him a bit in the Daily Mail and he deals with it privately and he moves on because he feels confident. But if he feels fragile, he does this counterattack, if that's what it is. Of course, there are serious allegations involved and perhaps they will be shown to be the case. And likewise for Rupert Lowe, I mean, Christopher Hope was telling us about how he's, you know, a wealthy man. He spent his time being senior in business and at Southampton Football Club. And maybe he doesn't like playing second fiddle, but everybody sometimes has to play different roles in an orchestra.
Well, this is a very fast-moving story, ladies and gents. We'll be covering this live until 8 o'clock. In a couple of minutes, Ben Habib, he's going to be joining me down the line. But I do want to bring you up to speed again with another tweet or X, whatever you call it, that Rupert Lowe has put out. I'm trying as well to see whether or not I can get Rupert Lowe on. In fact, let me cross live to Christopher Hope for an update.
That's right. It's a fast-moving situation. Again, this broke tonight with Reform UK issuing statements on Twitter. Rupert Lowe was caught by surprise when I was able to get hold of him earlier. He wasn't ready for this statement. He now says he wants to be very clear about the allegations. The allegations against the women in the office, in the Parliament and in Great Yarmouth are not about him, and not about him, he says. They have messed up their statement, that's Reform UK, and I am seeking legal advice. So it's very clear, you're seeing the statement there on screen now from Rupert Lowe. He's very clear there that the allegations against the women, there were 2 allegations made, but one in his office in Parliament and one in Great Yarmouth, are not about him. They, the party, has messed up their statement, and he is seeking legal advice. When they say legal advice, there's King's counsels involved in this situation, very expensive. This is money being spent on legal advice from party funds, you'd imagine, from the supporters, the 200,000 members who have given the party so much money over the past few months. It is extremely sad for this challenger party to be in this situation.
Goodness gracious me, a very fast-moving and very disappointing scenario for so many of our viewers tonight. So many people beyond that that do indeed support Reform UK, but a fantastic night for the opposition. They are absolutely celebrating. I'm sure that there'll be lots of glasses clinking in celebration about all of this evening. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gents. We are following this as it moves, and it is moving very quickly indeed. After the break, Ben Habib will be joining me. I'll see you in 2.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I know. So, Chef Theo Michaels joins us in the studio to talk about this. We know we've got a problem with food waste in this country, Theo, but this idea that there's a younger generation who are just reading the back of a packet and going, well, that must have gone off then, throwing it in the bin. Why do they do that when maybe we wouldn't?
Do you know what? I think we live in an increasingly sanitised, bubble-wrapped world, right, where we've become detached from our food, we've become detached from using a bit of common sense. And so I think there's a generation that are doing exactly this. They're looking at a best before date to start with, which actually is meaningless. Best before date is me turning around to you two going, the fish should be at its prime on Tuesday, right? Yeah. But that's not the use by date. The use by date could be a week later. You know, we say the sniff test. That's what we should be doing. So I've had it before. I had a great experience once. I walked into a supermarket and I saw an Italian guy I know, and he was jumping around with so much excitement as he was collecting handfuls of Parmesan cheese that they said, oh, it was going out of date. And he was laughing, so he was going, we age this stuff for years. Yes. It doesn't go out of date. Yeah. So he was buying it by the truckload. And I think the key thing is there is this sort of sniff test that people talk about, but it's absolutely right. It's ingrained in us. It's instinctive that if we smell something that's off, it's like giving someone a dose of salts.
I'm also wondering, with these dates on these packaging, did it actually do a favour to the supermarkets because it meant that you're throwing them away and buying less?
100%.
Buying more.
The use by dates only came out in the 70s, right? And that was done by one particular supermarket. And for me, I can't help be cynical about it, Bevan.
Who was it?
It was Marks and Spencer's.
Was it?
Marks and Spencer's in the 70s.
They all followed suit.
And yeah.
They all followed suit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, bonus hour of Michelle Dewberry till 8 o'clock tonight. There is one story that's got each and every one of you talking, whatever your opinion on Reform UK. Everyone seems to have a view on all of the mess that is unfolding as we speak, alongside me, Charlie Downs and James Schneider, trying to make sense of it as we go. Lynn has been in touch, a GB News viewer, saying, Michelle, I absolutely despair. I'll tell you someone else that more than likely also despairs. Ben Habib. I can cross live to him now. He is, of course, the former deputy co-leader of Reform UK. What do you make to all of this, Ben?
Well, it's an accident that's been waiting to happen, Michelle. You followed it, really, I think, through the genesis of what you're now seeing today, when I had my first disagreements with Reform UK and Nigel over the way that the party is run. And Nigel put it down to me being bitter and twisted. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with having a proper constitution and a structure within the party by which members, and senior members in particular, obviously, can have their views heard by the leader, and that the leader would give those views credence, take them seriously, debate them properly, and then come to a conclusion. Democratizing the party was a key component of Reform UK going from being an insurgency to being a party capable of government. And notwithstanding all the campaigns that I fought in order to achieve that, and Rupert has obviously been fighting internally in order to achieve it, Nigel hasn't done it. And notwithstanding all the protestations Nigel, Yusuf and others make publicly about having given up ownership, the reality is that Nigel still controls Reform UK. It's only his word that goes. And if you have any dissent whatsoever, Reform cuts up like an adolescent teenager, a prickly teenager that hasn't got the confidence. I think James Schneider was mentioning this before I came on, hasn't got the confidence actually to deal with that criticism in a grown-up way. And they've come back at Rupert with his very legitimate criticisms, his very legitimate concerns, and they've sought to rubbish him. And I will say now, there is not a shred of truth, not one iota of truth in any of the accusations made by Lee Anderson and Zia Yusuf against Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe is an upstanding member of the public. He's in politics because he fears for the future of this country. He has given up his MP salary in order to sit in Parliament. He speaks unadulterated good common sense. He's pro-British in a way, frankly, that even Nigel Farage isn't. I don't want to get into an ideological debate because I know this one is about the way the party is governed and the way the party is going to go forward. But Rupert is by far one of the best MPs in Parliament. And that Reform should try and rubbish him for coming out with his legitimate concerns means that Reform is not up to the job. Nigel needs to either get a grip of what's going on or frankly get out of the party, get out of the way, and let a party that's really going to rescue the United Kingdom do the job, because right now Reform ain't doing it.
So you referenced it there, but when you left and you spoke out about Nigel, you will remember, Ben, that Nigel essentially described it as a champagne moment. He said that you would be no great loss, and he said that you were getting too big for your boots, alluding essentially, I imagine, to him perceiving that you've got a big ego. Now, you mention that Rupert Lowe has, quote, your, quote, legitimate concerns. If you've got legitimate concerns, do you think the right place to be airing said legitimate concerns is the inside pages of a national newspaper?
Now, what viewers have to bear in mind is that you only go to the newspapers when all private pleadings have failed. And because Reform UK doesn't have a constitution worth citing, because there's no mechanism internally to make the leadership listen, unless the leadership wishes to listen, and there's no mechanism to make them listen, no processes by which your voice can be heard internally, ultimately you have no option but to go public. If anyone thinks I went public about my concerns about Reform straight off the bat, they're completely wrong. I was complaining about the lack of democratization in the party, the lack of a proper structure, before I joined Reform. In fact, I've got emails I could send you, Michelle, if you're interested, evidencing my serious concerns about the way the party is governed. And it's only when those pleadings repeatedly fall on deaf ears, when nothing is done about it, that you recognize, as a member as a privileged member of people who have the public's ear, that you have to go public because it's the only way to make your case. And Rupert, having pleaded internally, and I know this personally because Rupert and I are friends. Rupert's been making this case internally for months, but no one's listening. And actually, Nigel hasn't even met Rupert since these issues kicked off. Nigel has removed himself from the debate, and he's put in Zia Yusuf and Lee Anderson to bat, and they've behaved abominably. And this is just absolutely no way for Reform UK to go forward.
Have you all just got massive egos and you all just need to get in a room and sort yourself out, Ben?
No.
Really? Because that's how it feels to a lot of people watching this. A lot of people are getting in touch.
Michelle, it's nothing to do with egos when it comes to Rupert, and it's absolutely nothing to do with my ego. Rupert and I are not in politics because we want to politically advance ourselves. We're in politics because Theresa May couldn't get Brexit over the line, and because through a series of events since 2019, this country has ended up on the precipice of disaster. Rupert and I both have perfectly good jobs in the real world. We're both privileged and we're lucky enough to be wealthy enough not to need to be in politics. We are in politics because we are concerned about the country. Nigel just needs to do the right thing, and he will have our support completely. He will have Rupert's support completely. It is not Nigel, it is not Rupert's ego that's the problem. It's not my ego that's the problem. There needs to be more introspection by Nigel, Zia Yusuf, Lee Anderson and others.
You've tweeted that you think Nigel should sack Zia Yusuf.
Absolutely. He should sack Zia Yusuf.
Who do you think should be the chairman then?
Well, Zia Yusuf needs to go, and the reason Zia Yusuf needs to go is because even though all you're seeing is what happened to Rupert Lowe and before that me and Howard Cox, what's been going on across the country, unknown to members of the public, is that the very people who put Reform UK on the map, the hundreds of people who campaigned shoulder to shoulder with Richard Tice, Rupert Lowe, and myself in order to get Reform to the point where it could win MPs, hundreds of those people have received the same treatment that Rupert Lowe is now receiving. Trumped up charges made against them, kangaroo reform court set up, and then they've been sacked. And Zia has brought in his own people from wherever they come from, mostly substandard from what I can see. Zia Yusuf is a problem. He has to go. Anyone who replaces him will be an improvement.
Blimey, there's a lot of fighting talk. I mean, I remember the hashtag that was circulating far and wide, hashtag Unite the Right. I think the exact opposite seems to be occurring as we speak, and it's a damn shame for everybody that wants different politics in this country. But for now, Ben Habib, I appreciate your perspective, your reflection, and I'm sure this isn't the end of the matter. I want all of you at home to get in touch and join this conversation. You are people that will have a very strong opinion on reform, whether you like them or whether you love them. Tell me your thoughts. I'll bring you into the conversation and my panel again after the break. I'll see you in 2.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Basically, we know the people behind Bond are the Broccoli family. And for the last 30 years, Cubby Broccoli's daughter, Barbara, and her half-brother, Michael G. Wilson, have been looking after the franchise and done very well with it. When you think of what a great Bond Daniel Craig was. Now, we haven't had a new movie for 4 years, and now
it looks like Amazon are going to take over the helm, and apparently relations are strained between Barbara and Stephen and Amazon, which to me sounds like they've, even though it's their baby, they've been pushed aside. So they've decided to step back. So now this new guy, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, is asking you who you would like to be the next 007. One name in the papers is Tom Cruise. But he's American. But
no.
Well,
this is what worries me about Amazon having it, though. It's going to become really Americanised.
Yeah, or very, very woke. I mean, are we going to have a woman playing James Bond?
I don't know if Jeff Bezos is that woke, is he?
Well, no, but Amazon are quite woke, aren't they?
No, they were woke when it was trendy to be woke, and now that we've got Trump in the White House, then they're not going to be woke at all. I mean, it's the Americanisation I worry about, and I do know somebody else who was in for it, who is Ian Fleming's great nephew, who would have kept it in Britain, right?
It should be kept in Britain,
and it's the Broccolis. They were American. Oh, she is American. But, I mean, they were based in Britain. And we want it to stay British.
They'll keep it at Pine
You know what we...
Right time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, bonus hour of me, Michelle Dewberry, till 8 o'clock. Alongside me, my panel remain. I've got James Schneider and Charlie Downs, a special programme on the civil war that many people are calling it, that seems to be brewing and erupting at a rapid speed in Reform UK. If you're just tuning in, you've got no idea what on earth's been going on. Sit yourself down, strap yourself in. 24 hours ago, you've had Rupert Lowe. He went to the press, double-page spread, essentially, to summarise, criticising Nigel Farage. Fast forward to today, Reform UK have made a series of allegations, essentially alleging that Rupert has been bullying females and that he's also made physical threats towards the chairman, Zia Youssef. The police are now involved. Rupert Lowe absolutely categorically denies any allegations like this against him. He's also issued a clarification and said that Reform UK have made a mess up of their statement, and that apparently the allegations about the women are not including and involving him. He's also responded to Reform UK's statement that they put out against him. Reform UK have hidden that response on their Twitter thread. Goodness gracious me. Analysis now from GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. I mean, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, Nigel Farage, Reform UK, topping the polls, smacking the other parties left, right and centre. The other parties were quaking in their boots, I would argue, due to Reform UK. Now they'll be clinking champagne glasses and celebrating.
I certainly would have thought so, yes. I mean, what this really shows is that Reform is not really a very professional political party. They say that they'll be in government by the next election, but it's really hard to see it. So, first of all, you've got Rupert Lowe coming out and attacking Nigel Farage, and this was on the almost on the eve of the start of Reform's local election campaign. Now the whole thing has erupted into total civil war. I can't, as you just said, and I can't see any way amidst all this bitterness that Rupert Lowe could ever come back into Reform, even if he's cleared of all the allegations.
I mean, you started us off then by saying that essentially, you know, they're not professional, whatever the wording was. But ultimately, in lots of respects, this is certainly in its kind of current iteration, a start-up political party. When you go back to any political party in their formative years and months, surely all of them take time to bed in.
Well, yeah, yes, they do. But I mean, the last time we've seen this kind of thing in British politics was with the SDP in the 1980s. Now, that they were formed by 4 former cabinet ministers, that they were a professional party, and yet they didn't last. They just completely disappeared. So the question now comes down to whether reform could itself actually last a full parliamentary term. If things like this keep going on, it certainly won't. You know, they're down to 4 MPs now. They can't keep falling out with each other, especially with big elections coming up in May.
And who do you think the primary beneficiary of all of this fallout will be, politically wise?
Well, it would work. It works both for Labour and the Conservative Party. There's as far as Labour are concerned, this ends up a good week for them. That there was a poll out this morning which shows Labour 2 points up on 28%. Reform are now in second place. They stay on 25%. But from Labour's point of view, that after a good week on the international stage for Keir Starmer, seeing Reform at each other's throats will be a great way of going into the weekend.
Interesting stuff. Nigel Nelson, who knows what tomorrow will bring? It's certainly a fast-moving situation. But for now, thank you for your thoughts on that. Rupert Lowe has tweeted again. Honestly, this is going to be an interesting half an hour, ladies and gents. He has said, "I feel so sorry for millions of decent British men and women from all over the country who've put their faith in reform. They've been let down by this malicious circus." And he says, "You all deserve so much better." The other part of this that I think is quite interesting, because as I said to you earlier on, Reform UK put out this statement that they're looking into workplace bullying allegations. They say the targeting of female staff that had raised concerns and evidence of derogatory and discriminatory remarks made about women, including reference to a perceived disability. Now, one young lady's gone onto Twitter and said basically that Rupert Lowe's been a kind, decent, respectful person to her, but she's saying as a young woman in Reform, the pattern of people who are getting what she calls a pass is concerning for her. She goes on to list Conor McGregor, Ant Middleton and so on. Rupert Lowe responded to that saying, "Let me be clear, these allegations against women are not about me." He says Reform UK have messed up their statement and is seeking legal advice. Conor, Charlie, you are a Reform UK member. Do you think they've got a woman problem?
Well, I've got to say, I have had conversations with sort of, female friends of mine who are a similar age to me. And this is a sentiment that has been echoed by some of them. So maybe there is something to this. I must say, I think the sort of old boys down the boozer aesthetic that Reform's leadership kind of embodies is, I think, for some people very endearing and attractive, and is part of why they support the party, because they feel like this is a group of normal guys who sort of understand the lives and concerns of everyday people and so on. But I think to a certain... Well, to a lot of young women, they will associate that stereotype with the kinds of men who down the pub have made comments about them, or perhaps, gone further than that, let's say. And so perhaps there is a conversation to be had about that. Now, with that being said, I don't think that there is, I don't think we need to talk about the actual specific people who are involved in Reform, because as far as I'm aware, nobody in the party actually has any outstanding convictions or allegations against them. As far as I know, they are all perfectly respectful towards women, Rupert Lowe being among those people. So I don't know. I mean...
But none of them are women.
Well, and there is that too. Now, whether we need to have a sort of perfect gender divide in our politicians is another matter entirely, I would say. I don't think that's necessary, personally. I think that it's perfectly possible for men and women to represent the interests of ordinary people. But I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is this is a sentiment that I have actually anecdotally heard from young women. But with that being said, I do think that young men and women alike there's a real appetite for just something fresh, something different in politics. And, Reform, as I've said already on the programme, is really the only vehicle for that right now, which is why this is also disappointing.
James?
Well, I mean, this doesn't feel fresh or different. This kind of, we were just watching Ben Habib's interview there, and I'm sure if you're one of the tiny number of people that are Reform UK party insiders, you'll understand what he's saying, and maybe what he's saying is right and maybe what he's saying is not right. But for the vast majority of people, it just looks very, very weird, and it doesn't look...
What looks weird?
This whole spat, is Nigel Farage democratic enough? Do they have egos? Do they not have egos? One's being sent to the police, the former deputy leader calling for the chair to be kicked out, and that literally anybody would be better. It all looks very weird, and it also all looks very personal, because this is all screaming interpersonal rivalries and not getting on. Not one of them at any point has mentioned any political differences. It's not like one of them saying, we have this particular strategy, Nigel Farage doesn't want to do this particular strategy. It's like, he's not listening to me. Now, maybe you should be listening to them, maybe you shouldn't. There's no way for anyone at home to know, because they're not framing it in terms of political differences. It's all very personal, which is why it looks like normal politics, because normal politics is basically mostly self-interested people who have personal connections and personal beefs with one another, rather than people who believe a set of things and have a programme they want to deliver for the country.
And this is crucial. I mean, if it were actual sort of politics that were being disagreed over here, that would be one thing. But it's the fact that this does seem to just be interpersonal drama that makes it so frustrating to see. Because one would think that, given the condition of the country and given the way that it's being governed and the way, in fact, that it has been governed long before Keir Starmer and co came into office, you'd think we would be above this kind of thing in the area of politics, where we are actually after something like radical change. We're not Conservatives in Reform UK. I mean, there would be those that would identify as small c Conservatives, but I certainly don't identify that way. I am a radical, and I want to see radical change in British politics. And as I've said already...
And Reform may end up not being the vehicle for you.
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Or the £1 million question, I should say. Because for my money, they remain the only viable vehicle for that. I mean, it's certainly not going to be the Conservative or Labour parties. But, I mean, after this ordeal, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who have had their faith in the party shaken. Because if something like this is enough to bring the party grinding to a halt and to make national news, well, that doesn't bode all that well, really, does it?
Isn't it all silly? Isn't it all silly? I do. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want to get them all together in a room. I want to give them a big shake, and then I want to bang their heads together and tell them to pack it in and move forward with a little bit of unity, because I speak to you. I'm looking at all your comments now. There's millions of you that are depending on them. Sort it out, chaps. Anyway, the conversation continues after the break.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, we can expect lots of spring sunshine, feeling warm for many too, but across Scotland a slightly different story, wetter here, and that's all thanks to this frontal system slowly moving its way northwards as we head through this evening and overnight. So a thicker area of cloud moving through, also some outbreaks of rain for a time across Northern Ireland, though this eventually easing, but outbreaks of rain moving their way across Scotland. This could be a little bit heavy at times, but for many it's going to be a largely dry night, a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, and remaining fairly mild too as we find ourselves in between two frontal systems, so a largely frost-free start to the weekend. Across Scotland, though, some quite thick areas of cloud. This cloud could be fairly low at times. That might just lead to a bit of a murky start. Any rain largely confined to the north, but it should shift its way northwards through the course of the day, so brightening up quite a lot across a large portion of Scotland. A murky start still too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and pretty much everywhere across England and Wales could see some patchy mist or fog to start, but this clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. But some further cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, a risk of showers through the morning, but any showers largely petering out. Some rain perhaps lingering across the far north of Scotland through much of the day, but for many it's actually going to be a dry start to the weekend. Plenty of blue skies, and it's going to feel particularly warm for the time of year as well. Temperatures possibly reaching 18, maybe 19, 20 degrees Celsius, where we see that sunshine stick around, particularly across northern parts of England. So a nice start to the weekend. And similar on Sunday, we'll see quite a mild start, perhaps some patchy frost under the clearer skies, but for many it's going to be a dry day. Once again, plenty of blue skies and still feeling very warm for the time of year. Just some higher cloud perhaps across the far southwest, making any sunshine turn a little bit hazy, and more dry weather to come next week, but temperatures are soon going to dip away, so likely to see some overnight frost and some chilly days.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there, bonus hour of me, Michelle Dewberry, until 8 o'clock tonight. There's a lot of devastation coming through from the inbox tonight, genuinely, from Reform supporters feeling very sad indeed tonight. They feel that their hope has shattered. That's what one of the viewers presented it to me as a few minutes ago. I'll tell you someone that's perhaps not feeling as sad. Political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Matthew, happy Friday. What do you make to it all?
Well, Zia Yusuf, who has now reported Rupert Lowe to the police, and Rupert Lowe, both of those two gentlemen, have been telling us, haven't they, for some time, that Reform UK are going to run this country, or they are going to form the next government of the United Kingdom. But they can't even get 9 months in Parliament before they lose 20% of their MPs. It is quite extraordinary.
I mean, that is a bit dramatic. I mean, yeah, it's 20% only because they're starting from such a low base, and political infighting happens all the time.
You can't afford political infighting if there are only 5 of you. There's no doubt that Reform have done a rather extraordinary thing, to use that word extraordinary again, to lead the polls. I mean, a sign of how successful they've been is that even after Keir Starmer was widely seen to have performed extremely well on the international global stage over the last 2 weeks, a latest YouGov poll has Labour only 1 point back ahead of Reform. And that is, you've got to give them, I suppose, some sort of credit, although I disagree very, very strongly with their politics. That is a remarkable achievement when Labour have over 400 MPs and Reform have, well, now 4, because the whip has been suspended from Rupert Lowe. But this is such bad news for the party, because how can the British people begin to trust them to run the country, to run everything from domestic to foreign policy, when they can't even stick together as 5. I mean, it is truly amazing. And we don't know about the allegations, what will come of them. As you say, Rupert Lowe has denied them. But this is a man who spends a rather extraordinary amount of time on social media, and that is not how you become a credible election fighting force.
Interesting stuff. Matt Stadlen, thank you for your thoughts on all of that. Gents in the studio, time flies. We're almost done. Final thoughts. What do you want to see happen next, Charlie, as a Reform UK member?
Get it together, lads. Come on. There's a country to save. There's bigger fish to fry than this sort of thing.
James?
I don't think they're actually interested in saving the country and standing on the side of ordinary people, so I'm not surprised that they're at each other's throats.
What do you think they're trying to stand for, then?
I mean, as it's turning out, different things for the different 5 of them. But I think that, generally speaking, they're funded by big business, and they, when push comes to shove, those are the interests they're going to support, not those of ordinary people that need relief and need a government that works for them. And maybe this is the beginning of that process unfolding. We'll see.
Who's this? One of my viewers, you've just got in touch. You said Kemi Badenoch will be on the Lambrini tonight. Never mind Kemi Badenoch. You've now planted that seed in my head. I used to love Lambrini when I was a teen, an older teen, I hasten to add, in case you're watching, Mum. Is that even still a thing? You've planted that seed. That's how I shall be opening, I think, when I get home. But look, I've got to say, on a serious note, lots of you are counting on Reform UK. I know that lots of you put a lot of your hope and faith into them. You wanted that party to be different, and you remain hopeful that indeed it shall be. A day is a very long time in politics. Who on earth knows what tomorrow brings? I certainly have no idea, do you? But what I can tell you is that there's lots of people echoing Charlie Downs' thoughts there. You want them all to get it together. I'm like repeating myself because I feel so strongly about it. Gentlemen, the offer stands. I'll get you all in a room, I'll mediate it, I'll shake you all, I'll bang some heads together, and hopefully I'll restore some hope to the country. But for now, that's all we've got time for. James, Charlie, thank you for your time. Thank you for your company. Have a good weekend. I'll see you Monday night.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, we can expect lots of spring sunshine, feeling warm for many too, but across Scotland a slightly different story, wetter here, and that's all thanks to this frontal system slowly moving its way northwards as we head through this evening and overnight. So a thicker area of cloud moving through, also some outbreaks of rain for a time across Northern Ireland, though this eventually easing, but outbreaks of rain moving their way across Scotland. This could be a little bit heavy at times, but for many it's going to be a largely dry night, a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, and remaining fairly mild too as we find ourselves in between two frontal systems, so a largely frost-free start to the weekend. Across Scotland, though, some quite thick areas of cloud. This cloud could be fairly low at times. That might just lead to a bit of a murky start. Any rain largely confined to the north, but it should shift its way northwards through the course of the day, so brightening up quite a lot across a large portion of Scotland. A murky start still too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and pretty much everywhere across England and Wales could see some patchy mist or fog to start, but this clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. But some further cloud across parts of Devon and Cornwall, a risk of showers through the morning, but any showers largely petering out. Some rain perhaps lingering across the far north of Scotland through much of the day, but for many it's actually going to be a dry start to the weekend. Plenty of blue skies, and it's going to feel particularly warm for the time of year as well. Temperatures possibly reaching 18, maybe 19, 20 degrees Celsius, where we see that sunshine stick around, particularly across northern parts of England. So a nice start to the weekend. And similar on Sunday, we'll see quite a mild start, perhaps some patchy frost under the clearer skies, but for many it's going to be a dry day. Once again, plenty of blue skies and still feeling very warm for the time of year. Just some higher cloud perhaps across the far southwest, making any sunshine turn a little bit hazy, and more dry weather to come next week, but temperatures are soon going to dip away, so likely to see some overnight frost and some chilly days.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome.
especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I do think that there is extremities in how this has been approached with, you can't eat kebabs anymore. The Climate Change Committee isn't talking about banning meat. It's talking about reducing meat, perhaps having some incentives for plant-based diets. It's talking about doing small changes, not phasing out everything, doing small changes to move to a net zero future, a more sustainable future.
How can me not having a large dollar combat, I don't know, China opening one coal-fired power station a week? Come on, this is pointless.
Well, there is other things that have been advised beyond just, reducing our meat consumption. There's things around the tax around flying and aviation, producing less fossil fuel imports and switching to more renewable power, upgrading the grid. There's a lot of other advisories collectively that moves us towards a net zero future. There is a few, of course, we can go down the route of, they can't eat the kebab anymore, but there's far more other things at play than just the kebab meat.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump, that man again, is just laughing at all this. Drill, baby, drill. You're not telling me that his cabinet are going to chow down on some quinoa. This is a red meat country leading the way, and if we had half a brain about us, we'd be drilling ourselves.
I come from an energy industry background. I work for a data intelligence company, Mapstand, as well. And what we are seeing is that what's happening in America is actually quite short-term thinking. It's not long-term thinking. Whereas in places in China, you're seeing a lot of innovation and green innovation because there is a huge economic opportunity.
Yeah, because they're selling it all to the West and polluting their atmosphere. We're offshoring our carbon footprint, and they're selling the solar panels back to us because we're the mugs.
We're also able to be the producers and also change our own energy so that we can also compete.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's live.